Okay, so in this video, we're gonna look at task 24, which is page 13 in the unit 3 packet. It's area conversions. Now we are gonna use what we learned the very first thing, dimensional analysis. So if you don't remember it, I recommend either watching like the short video that I made that I posted on this page, or going back to the first day of class and looking through it, or looking through your notes at least, because we are gonna use that information in this lesson. Okay, so first thing, we're gonna convert things. And so these are some of the conversions we are gonna use in class today. The ones you need to know for the exam are like these two. So either put them on your note sheet or memorize them. You need to know these. From all the metric ones, you technically need to know, but you can figure them out using the chart that we talked about in unit 1. So like these, you could figure out from that chart. This one you'll need for the homework, but you don't need it anywhere else. Okay, so I would just pause and write these down because we will be using these for all the questions that we're doing. Okay, so looking at the first problem, what we're gonna do is we're gonna convert 120 square feet. So what the difference is now we're converting an area measurement instead of just a single length measurement or weight or anything like that. So when I do that, we have to take into account that we're going to need to use our conversion factor twice. So we know we want to do 120 square feet of carpet for one of the miniature golf holes. How many square inches is that? So we know that there is 12 inches in 1 foot. So one way to do this is we could make this chart, and it says, think about it for a moment. The conversion has to be used twice in order to get the new units of measure, which is inches squared, and to cancel the units of feet squared at the same time. So 120 feet squared is the same thing as 120 feet times feet, because anything times itself is the same thing as squaring it. And I need both of these feet to cancel out, so I have to multiply this by the conversion factor twice. This first one would cancel the first foot, and then the second would cancel the second foot. And then again, we multiply our numerators together and denominators. So we would do like 120 times 12 times 12. And you can put this over 1 if you want, and then 1 times 1 times 1. So if you do that, the top would give us 17,280 over 1, which is just 17,280. Okay, and then the units we have are inches times inches, which is inches squared. And so there we found the number of square inches, and you can also write it square inches in words. Now the homework is going to, for some of them, write it as multiple choice, and they write it a little bit differently. What they do is instead they just square the units, because that's the same thing as multiplying it by the conversion factor twice. So what I could do instead, if I don't want to write it twice, is I could square this. Now, when I square this, I'm going to square everything in this. Okay, and so what that means is I'm going to square the 12 squared and the inches squared. And then I'm going to square this 1 squared and the feet squared. Okay, so you have to square the number and the units. Then the feet would cancel, and I would get 120 times 12 squared, which is the same as this 12 times 12 inches squared, over 1 squared. And if you simplify that, you would still get the 17,280 inches squared. So it's 2 ways to write it. You can write it whichever way you're more comfortable with. There will be a few questions on the homework that ask for the answer in multiple choice, and they'll write it this way. Okay, so let's look at another example. You need 120 square feet of carpet for one of the miniature golf holes. How many square yards is that? Okay, so there are 3 feet is equal to 1 yard. Again, that's one you should make sure that you know. I start with what I'm trying to convert. Okay, so I have 120 square feet. Okay, and you can rewrite that if you want to do the chart is 120 feet times feet. Okay, I need both of these feet to cancel out, so I have to multiply this by this conversion factor twice. I want the feet to cancel, so the 3 feet has to go in the denominator both times, and the 1 yard in the numerator. So then these feet cancel, and then I multiply my numerators and denominators together. So I have 120 times 1 times 1, which is 120. 3 times 3, which is 9. I have the units yard times yard. And if I simplify that, I get 13.333. It keeps going. I'm just going to do 3 decimal places and then yard squared. Okay. Or again, you could write it as the 120 feet squared. And then you would write 1 squared yard squared over 3 squared feet squared. So I'm pretty much, again, squaring everything in this conversion factor. And again, then the feet squared cancel. You get 120 yards squared over 3 squared, which is 9. So it's the same thing as this of this 13.333. So that's a few examples with the US measurement system. We'll also do a few with the metric. Now for the metric, you can't count the chart as well. So you just use the chart to figure out like the conversions if you need them. So we know we want to say that you have 20 square meters. So that's what we're starting with. A carpet for a miniature golf hole. How many square centimeters of carpet would be needed? How many square millimeters of carpet would be needed? How many square kilometers of carpet would be needed? Show your work. So we're doing like 3 calculations. So the first thing we're converting it is to centimeters. So we need the conversion. So there's 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. The second one is how many millimeters. So I have 1 meter is equal to 1,000 millimeters. And then the third one is converting it to kilometers. And so 1 kilometer is equal to 1,000 meters. And so we're going to set this up problem 3 times. So to convert it to centimeters, I would do 20 meters squared. I would multiply it by this conversion factor twice. So I'm going to rewrite this as meters times meters. Okay, and make sure this is times, not millimeters. It's easier to mix that up. So this I would do 100 centimeters on the top and 1 meter on the bottom because I would cancel the first one. And then I would write it again to cancel the second. And then again, I multiply the numerators and the denominators. So that would give me, if I multiply this out, $200,000 centimeters squared, and that would be my answer over 1. And centimeters times centimeters give me centimeters squared. So that's the first one, converting it to centimeters. The second thing asked us for millimeters squared. So I take 20 meters squared, meters times meters, and then I'm going to multiply it by this conversion factor. The 1 meter again is going to go in the denominator. The 1,000 is going to go in the numerator. Those cancel. If I multiply this out, I get 20 million, and that's millimeters squared. And then the last one is changing it to kilometers. Okay, so again, I'm starting with the 20 meters squared. This time, I'm going to have the 1,000 meters in the denominator, and then 1 kilometer in the numerator both times. So this one I get 20 times 1 times 1, which is 20, and then kilometers squared, or kilometers times kilometer. This one I get 1,000 times 1,000. which gives me 1,000,000. And then if I divide that, you're gonna get 0 point and then 4 zeros and then a 2. When you divide that in your calculator, if you have a TI or scientific, what it's gonna do is it's gonna give you this with the E, and that means scientific notation. So that means that you're doing 2 times 10 to the -5th. That's what the E means. And whatever the number after the E is the exponent on the 10. And then we move the decimal 5 to the left. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you put zeros in. And I again rewrite it without all the lines. So this would be the same thing as what I had here. Okay, so just if you see that notation, that's what it means. And then this question is one from the homework, and this is how they write a lot of the homework problems. So it says, which expression can be used to convert 20 square inches into centimeters? And this is the conversion factor. I had it on that first page. 2.54 centimeters equals 1 inch. So again, when we're doing this the way that they did it with the inches squared, we're gonna square both of these factors. So it would be, we need the inches squared on the bottom, and we would square the 1. And the 2.54 centimeters squared on the top, because then our inches squared would cancel. So this is what I'm looking for. Be careful, because you need the squareds on the numbers and the units, and it's really easy to miss something. So this first one doesn't work because the numbers are not squared. So even though the units are squared, the numbers are not. This second one, okay, everything is squared, but the conversion factor is not right. Or sorry, this one is good because it's 2.54 squared centimeters squared. So this should be our answer. We'll just go through and check them to make sure. C is not right because they have the centimeters on the bottom and the inches on the top, and so those don't cancel. D is not correct because it's not squared, and again, the inches squared don't cancel. Okay, this one, they have it backwards. They have 1 centimeter equals 2.54 inches, but that's not the conversion factor, so they have the wrong conversion factor. And this one, again, the numbers are not squared, and they have the wrong conversion factor, so it would be B. So a lot of them are on the homework like that. Just be careful and pay attention to it. So that's the squared dimensional ones, and then we'll talk about the 3-dimensional in a different video.